So I made this presentation in the beginning of the year. I was at CoFi Berlin in March. So this is the presentation I gave to them, and it's just the story keeps going, and have some updates. But a lot of this information has been under development for a few years, um, especially as the refi scene has exploded and then contracted and then is now expanding again. So it's always it's always like an evolving story. So basically, we are in the process of rewilding and also modernizing. And so it's a very interesting and delicate balance to find a way that is appropriate in multiple contexts, as everybody around the world is having to deal with how do we live on planet Earth in a meaningful and sustainable way. So bioregionalism has been around for a very long time, since the mid 19 well, I guess the 1970s and 1980s, kind of carrying on top of the Gaia hypothesis, that Earth is a self-regulating entity, and bioregionalism basically looks at how is Earth operating already. And what's interesting about bioregionalism is it connects climate to culture. And so bioregions are defined by both their climate characteristics, the plants that grow there, the weather patterns, the mountains, the rivers, and it's also defined by the humans who identify with the land and with the landscape. So bioregioning as a verb is basically people coming into awareness that where they live and who they live with. So the map that I'm showing right now is from One Earth, and One Earth is a great resource. They have a beautiful navigator that you can find on their website, and you can explore all the different bioregions. And these are just kind of guidelines and outlines. But just to see like a map and how it all fits together, which is, just a shift in perspective, because we're just so used to seeing like a static map with like national borders, and it's not a living map, and then we get lost in the territory. So bioregions are like maps that are living with the territory. And so our job is, how do we bring these bioregions alive through culture and technology, and find ways that actually are able to regenerate these bioregions both locally and globally. So this ties into cosmolocalism, which is another fun keyword, where basically we have a global internet digital commons, but we also have the local commons that are tied to natural capital and everything connected to that. So I just want to go through the social map, and this is the different chapters amongst the different organizations. We have Refi DAO, we have Green Pill chapters, we have Regions Unite, Cello on the map as well. This is made by Refi DAO, and I'm representing Refi Sicilia, which is part of the Real World Builders Gitcoin grant round. It's the first time that they've done a grant round, quadratic funding, specifically for people who are building on Cello. And then there's also the region coordinations that is being run on Cello as well. And our sister organization, Refi Italia, is in that. So just to show the topography and the activity of all of these different chapters and communities and events taking place around the world, as everybody is bringing these refi ideas to life. So as a refi node, the goal is to bring together both refi tech builders who have building apps in the space, as well as people on the ground who are making the regenerative actions and ideally building those bridges between the two communities so that we can actually do the impact actions on the ground, and then be able to track and measure, verify. And so there's a growing, there is a growing like occupation, vocation of regeneration. And this is, I think, what is the really big opportunity is when we're faced with these, meta crisis, multiple climate crises, social crises, economic crises, we actually have solutions. So I'm just zooming in on this map here, and you can see that there's like these red hotspots, and these are fires. This is from last year, where we had a lot of devastating fires all throughout Sicilia, South Italy, the Mediterranean. I mean, globally, fires are a problem. I mean, if it's not fires, it's droughts, it's floods. These are all interconnected as the weather patterns change, as the habitats are destroyed, as more fossil fuels get pumped into the air. There is a lot of downstream effects of our traditional degenerative economic and political system. So as we start to look at where are the fires, where are the droughts, where are the deserts, this is informing us of how we can come together as a community to solve these problems. So we are letting the land lead how we do our design and our regenerative actions, and how we develop our culture so that we can eventually design the blockchain tools that we need to support this into the future. So this is kind of what we're doing on the ground, where we're taking this idea of syntropic agroforestry, syntropic agriculture, and we're bringing the community together to do actions on the ground while we're also uploading using the digital toolkit as well. So just briefly, the syntropic agroforestry, and this map on the left here basically shows how does a forest grow over time. And so on the left, bottom left, you can see you kind of start with nothing, and then you're planting pioneer species called placenta, and then you're moving longer term into your climax overstory trees. So the idea is that you have your bushes and your pioneer species that are growing up first, and that's providing shade and also decompacting the soil, building up the microbiology in the soil. And then you have the trees that take longer to grow are being are being supported, and so that over time eventually the trees will grow up stronger together, so you have a full canopy system over time. So this is a long time scale, anywhere from like 2 to 200 years that we're putting in these systems, and then eventually we get to a point where the system is fully functional. It's providing all of its needs on its own, so that we at least have an exit strategy for industrial agriculture, which is driving a lot of ecosystem degradation. So by focusing in on the syntropic agroforestry, you're building a foundation of natural capital, social capital, that then we can leverage into a regenerative economy. So Refi Sicilia has been around for a little over a year. We started doing events last year. The picture here is right after our big Refi week last October, where we brought together about 20 different people to do a big tree planting exercise, while also working with Sylvia to do all the digital uploads of the trees that we planted. And they have a really cool app that I'll talk about more later. So this was the design site for the first agroforestry system. This is a family farm with 3 hectares that you can see on the map here with different layers. And then we were able to pick some trees, avocados, almonds, acacia, moringa, mango. All of these will grow over time. We're still learning. We're in a Mediterranean climate. We're integrating tropical trees as well as more like traditional trees. So there's a lot of experimentation going on. Thanks to Gitcoin, we've been able to raise enough money to basically invest in infrastructure for the farm, including greenhouse as well as irrigation. And so for a few thousand euros, we're able to get this very large farm on a regenerative pathway by engaging the community, and then also providing alternative funding sources, not just through Gitcoin, but also through other apps. So as we're doing like this full stack regenerative effort, all of these new, like this new work is coming online. And so recently Arbitrum did a basically a grant round for refi. One of the first like refi specific grant rounds with like some serious money, where I think it was something like $15,000 worth of Arbitrum was given out across different teams. I think, no, it's 15 teams, 30,000 Arbitrum, something like that. But like some more funding than we've seen for refi in a long time. So they categorized it into 5 different categories: agroforestry, MRV, DeFi, refi education, and then ecosystem tools and infrastructure. So these are like the 5 verticals. And then as I'm doing the regenerative work, as I'm looking at others doing the regenerative work for refi, what are all of the different applications and I guess you can call them modules or features that we're using. So inside of this circle, and this is constantly moving, this is constantly like circulating, because we're having to do all of these things, from looking at dashboard analytics to doing the impact actions on the ground, organizing them through events, doing the commitment pooling, impact reporting, eco credit minting, retro funding, member benefits, upskilling, voting, validating, staking, NFTs on marketplaces, managing a public treasury, and then having all that information available to the commons, and then having some type of governance focus around all of this money that's coming in through refi. And then we have all of these apps in the ecosystem that are providing some of these features. So like Sylvie, Atlantis DAO, Karma Gap for the impact reporting, Serafu for the mutual credits and the commitment pooling, Regen Network for the eco credits, Agroforce DAO, and Charmverse, Bloom Network. So, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, but all of these things are working together so that we can come together as a local local community to do these efforts. And so one of the things that we got started off is one of our community members is also a blockchain developer and has an app called Migo. And so we're doing our mutual aid events. Grassroots Economics calls it rotating labor, but basically we're setting up events locally. The events have tickets that are on chain, so everybody who comes and participates gets their own NFT ticket. So this is giving us a little bit of a history into who's participating in these actions, so that either we can be doing direct payments or retroactive funding, or even accepting tickets for events. So we've kind of hijacked Migo, which is traditionally, which has been more for like music shows or festivals. We're using it for our mutual aid event because our community member is doing the technology. So by having personal relationships with the tech developers, that's able to like help us integrate the technology better. So yeah, here's us planting the trees in a on contour system. So each of the trees got uploaded to Sylvie, and then there on the left is Gmo. So what we were able to do is, as we're doing the rotating labor, we're going and working with other farms in the area, not just that main site, because that main site is just a demonstration site. So we're able to invite other people who have their homesteads or have their small farming operations, or who just want to get active with regenerative farming. We're creating basically a mutual learning network, as well as a mutual aid network. And so here we are at one of our member sites during Refi Week, where we went around to basically map the bioregion. So yeah, these slides aren't really so much in order, but this is just the region marketplace. So as we're developing the agroforestry projects, we're also developing the agroforestry eco credits. And luckily, Sylvie has an application where we can start to create that DMRV and then use that to basically back up our eco credit claims. And so here is just briefly the ecological benefits framework, where you can mix and match the regenerative efforts that you're doing and then bundle it up into a digital eco credit using their methodology and their framework. And one of the things that was fun is, describing ecological benefits framework, we used a metaphor of pesto, where pesto is just like a framework for making a condiment, where you basically have something green, you have a cheese, and then you have like some nut. So each region around Italy will make it differently. So if you have pesto genovese, which is what kind of we think of as pesto, the green basil and pine nuts and parmesan, versus the local pesto here, trapanese, which is made with tomatoes, you can basically mix and match your ingredients. So that was a big like training and education bridge, where people were like, oh, okay, now we can start to think like how all these eco credits make sense. The reason why we're called Refi Sicilia and not Refi Sicilia is that nobody knows what regenerative finance means, but refi in Italian means to redo. And so people can get really excited about like, oh yeah, let's do it. Like, how do we remake society regeneratively? So that was another thing that was benefiting just the storytelling, so that people can feel more connected and not feel like the technology is getting in the way. So during the refi week, basically 7 days of both visiting partner sites as well as doing the main action at the demonstration site. And we would start in the morning, do the field work, anything from making soil to making seed balls to planting trees, prepping the ground, all done in like a collective effort. And then we would end with a dinner and like a circle around the fire. And each night we would have different presenters. Here's Sev from Sunflower Eco Lab presenting the agroforestry eco credit. Sev is now working with Sylvie to help with Operation Web Tree. And here is basically the app on the right, where we did all of the tree plantings. And then as the trees grow, we're able to do digital updates, and we're getting payments. So basically what Sylvia is doing is something called tree forwards, where if you can basically say, well, the life of the tree is going to like $100 for the life cycle of this tree. And every season you're proving that the tree is growing, then you're getting paid from these tree forwards. So yeah, this is what it looks like today, where we've got a few partner sites where we're basically giving out moringa trees to anybody who's interested. And we're also going to other sites as they do their tree plantings and helping them to use the tools so that they can get rewarded as well. So now we're starting to see in a collective effort how this all makes sense among the different regenerative sites around the bioregion. And going more into the collaborative finance side of things, this is the Serafu network. So we also have we have a Refi Sicilia has a project live on the Real World Builders grant round on Gitcoin. And so money raised from that will go directly to seeding this liquidity pool. And basically how the mutual credit pools work is any member can put in their own vouchers or their own gift cards, basically saying that I have this to give, I'm putting this voucher in, if anybody wants it, they can trade it. So everybody's putting their services into the pool, and we're going to focus this pool mostly on the tree plantings, but we also have like a fire watch. We're also doing beach cleanups. So we have a lot of things that the community is already doing. It's just that we're not transacting in a formal way. It's all very informal. So by having this mutual credit pool, people can participate as well as exchange value, and then having the crypto and fiat integrated into the pool, people can exit and turn their digital mutual credits into fiat or into crypto. So there's a lot of fungibility. So very excited to play around with this. And then, looking forward to later in the year, how do we continue this, bioregional mapping effort? And so the goal is to go and visit all of the different sites that are active in the community, and basically hands-on training with the best regenerative agricultural practices with using all of the ReFi digital tools. So this is another app that's been developed in-house here. It's a trash mapping site. So when you see some trash on the street, you can drop a pin in WhatsApp or Telegram. There's a chat bot, and it auto-populates this map. And then just recently, Cleanify came along, and they're also another Italian team, but they're doing a global trash app. So that's another way that, like, basically getting the group engaged and active. And then here, most recently, as we're going through like more intense droughts in the summer here, the water situation is becoming more critical. And so here is the local area, and the blue points you can see Terra Insumisa, and then up the river valley Orto dei Miracoli, and then at the top of the mountain the Ostello Puntanazza. And these are all member sites. And so just turns out that they're all located along the same riverbed and watershed. So we can actually start to use Atlantis app to do river mapping and to see the health of the river, and if there's trash or if there's any obstructions. But then we can start to do regenerative rehydration efforts. So if it's doing, like riverbank, reforesting riverbanks, or just picking up trash out of the water, all of these efforts help to bring awareness and to bring human energy back to these like distressed ecosystem services. And so, yeah, like I said, we're in Gitcoin. And so, yeah, great if everybody can head over there. This is an interesting Gitcoin 2021 round is interesting because it is only community rounds. So there's no open source software. So most of the funding for Gitcoin comes for software development for Ethereum. So having all of these like smaller rounds, it is like, just showing like what kind of support is actually out there. So I think there's a lot of work that can be done, like abstracting away the quadratic funding where people don't necessarily have to know all the technical details, but also making it so that people can participate in the donation as well as in the impact reporting. So this is, just briefly now, like we went over that slide with all of the regenerative efforts and actions. This is more about like, how do we build a like bioregional level land trust that's baked into kind of like blockchain crypto economics. So if I guess this idea of Earth Bank, where your bank is backed by the actual land and the natural capital. And so all of these things start to play into each other, where how do we support taking more land out of speculation, putting regions on land long term where they're earning sweat equity. And this whole schematic is based off of the Permaculture Designer's Manual. Back in the 1980s, they were already pioneering how to do regenerative bioregional economies and bioregional governance. So how do we like update that to the 21st century and to run on blockchains? Because right now, everybody's jumping from layer 1 to layer 2 to roll-ups. And so it's very fragmented. And my thesis is that over time, as more of the regenerative economic activity localizes, we're going to want to have more of that activity on a local blockchain. And so the idea is that the local blockchain is running kind of like the mission critical local services, and that is connecting to the global internet as well. So just another shout out to Bloom Network, who is like kind of a social media site, and they're building out a lot of features. And one of the cool things is that now they're starting to do rewards for local action. And so by uploading impact reports on Bloom Network, we can tie that into Karma Gap, and then that can get tied into all the grant reporting from Gitcoin. So we're getting a lot better ways to prove that the capital is being used effectively and efficiently. And so, yeah, that's it. If you guys want to get some olive oil, I think this year it's going to be very minimal olive harvest, but fortunately, we're going to have more avocados, and we're going to be able to make avocado oil using the olive oil presses. So that's very exciting. I'll pause there because it's just so much information, but I'll just leave it on the on this slide because I feel like this is where I'm focusing most of my energy right now, is figuring out how all of the workflow processes and all of the different apps work together. And I think that's what is the hardest part, is seeing where the synergy is. And just as we're doing the syntropic agroforestry, we're doing the syntropic app development as well. So yeah, I will pause there and open for any questions, comments, reflections, accusations, flagrant fouling. I see Jogo's in the audience. Yeah, shout out to Jogo, shout out to Jan. This has been a very long road with a lot of twists and turns. Thanks to Refi Spring back in, yeah. So this kind of all got like kicked off back in 2021, 2022 with the Refi Spring, and we were able to do a Refi event in Barichara, and then coming back to Sicily was able to kind of reinvent how does Refi work in the local context. So the avocados are doing very well. We have a local farmer. Do I have a photo? I think I have a photo somewhere. I'll have to find a photo of the avocado farm, but basically, we have a local partner who has like he's got a farm. It's been 3 generations. His grandfather, his father, and now he's farming it. And they have you know, citrus, and then more recently he's been planting avocados over the last 10 years, and they've been doing very well. And so we're able to save the seeds and build up a rootstock. And now that we have a greenhouse, courtesy of the Gitcoin donations, we can actually have a place where we can kind of grow these seeds. And basically, I mean, what's becoming very obvious is that minimal investment in greenhouse infrastructure has like the biggest upside. Greenhouse investment, irrigation investment is allowing us to do pretty much what we need to do. Of some investment in equipment, so basically a mulcher chipper, and yeah, just some power tools. The regenerative agricultural processes requires different tools, even though we're still like using tractors and some other things to get things done. Yeah, just investing in a community tool library like goes a really long way. So we're starting to get like how all of this stuff works, and I think it's, you know, while there is like some context specific things, I feel like this is replicable across all of the areas. And with Operation WebTree with Sylviap, I think there's over 10 or 12 partner sites around the world, including Agroforestal in Brazil, and then Coconut Network in Dominican Republic, and there's teams in Colombia and in Kenya. So it's really cool to work with all these other agroforestry sites as we like develop our individual methodologies. But yeah, avocados are doing really good. I'm really stoked to get the avocado toast back on the menu, and and yeah, get that Sicilian avocado oil going.
I remember now. I saw.
Interesting what you.
I thought.
Go ahead, Jogo.
Sorry, John. No, just that I saw an image of it on Twitter. I guess 3 big farm, right? Mature trees and all.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The most. Happen? I want to do the oil over here too.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The most mature avocado tree is only 10 years here, And what's funny is the guy who's growing the avocados, he's never seen an avocado like outside of Sicily. So yeah, he's but you know, you can farmers can learn. And yeah, just doing more of the like the nesting, because the moringa tree, we seeded moringa with other, the type of plant is called licoricia. And so we're starting, which is more of like a small bushy, like it's got a medicinal root, and which decompacts the soil, which is great, because one of the biggest challenges here is just really compacted, degraded clay soil. And so a lot of especially the avocados don't like wet roots, and needs better drainage. So we're finding ways where we can decompact the soil without having to rely so much on tilling with machines. And then the next step is going to be how to integrate animals into the ecosystem. So people here already have chickens, already have goats. It's just how do we get this like holistic grazing process going? And luckily we have a local consultancy who specializes with like Alan Savory, as well as Elaine Ingham, like soil science. So yeah, it's just how do we support that education and get like remove those barriers for the locals to get access to that, because I mean, you can I don't know, 400 euros a day for like on-site holistic soil science consultation is not cheap, but also it's like definitely worth the investment. And they will do like basically 12 days. Like the whole course takes 12 days, and we'd have to divide those 12 days up over a whole year to get the full like curriculum. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm telling myself by year 4, we're in year 2, but by year 4, things are going to be like blowing up, growing up. What? Yeah. So how, like, for example, the name refi, where we have like a group chat, because as we meet people and engage, we, you know, bring people into a group chat. And so some people like have no idea of the tech, and they're just really, really passionate about the regeneration part. And so we have like a big spectrum of people who are like, don't even have a bank account, like they're off grid, but they're really passionate about regeneration. Then we have people who are like curious about like crypto, they're planting at home. And then we have people who are like blockchain developers. So we have a big diverse community. And most importantly is just, yeah, getting people who are into the regeneration and just meeting them where they are at. And not everybody's going to be donating to Gitcoin. Not everybody's going to be, you know, using DeFi, but for the mutual aid events and the platform that we're using, you can basically just sign in with Google, and then it has a wallet built in, which is not like, I mean, it's not ideal, but it's also like a step. It's got a Stripe integration, so I mean, people can't even use Web 2, let alone Web 3. But I mean, Jogo, how has your journey been? Basically, getting people on the refi tech.
Maybe I spent hours handling their telephones, creating emails. No, just joking. It's not that. I realized that the thing is not technical. The next video, it's more a matter of it's cultural. It's getting the purpose. What is our purpose? You know, it regenerate and show that it can be done transparently, fairly. You know, and so they see the reason to join. You know, because it's simple. Yeah, it's not hard, man, to remember 12 words and write down. It's possible. It's like that's not the limitation. It's culture. It's getting the word out there. You know, taking the public goods narrative to Italian, to Portuguese, all that. It's a cultural. It's like I see you show the map, amazing map that with the mountains and all. Could you go back there? It's interesting because we look at these watersheds and bioregions in these terms, and like you need to go to the river and recharge the river in that with the mount from outside. Yeah, but the river is important. But if you see the green areas, if you make a belt around them, and some of them it will produce you the seeds in the germplasm to spread to the river and all everywhere. Because there's humidity there, there's a microclimate already, so you take advantage of that instead of just going for the river region, and then you go to the river. But in other green regions, and also important in the cultural sense is like somewhere that people can see, there can be a showcase and regenerates, produce a lot of biomass, protection against drought, protection against fire, and long-term produce, and landscape changing, so people can see over the years. That is the impact that is limiting. That's the limitation for the next billion. They don't never saw it. They never saw it was possible, and once they see it, so how to introduce the system to local farmers near you is by making showcases.
Yeah, definitely. We got to show and tell. One of the things that so we're in the process of setting up a legal entity as a cultural association, and so we'll have like a legal entity and a digital entity, and that would be an on-chain organization to help us manage our collective activity. So going back to like how do we manage these all of this like resource coming in, and yeah, so basically setting up our Charmverse library. But one of the things that I want to do more of is we have a lot of artists, both like digital graphics, but also like music. And how do we take all of those cultural assets and turn it into an NFT as a fundraiser, or as a kind of like not only raising money, but also raising awareness. And so I think that's something that I'm going to put more effort and energy into next year, as we have like a more solid foundation on the farms. And because I think we've gone from like getting 1,000 euros of funding. More recently, we broke the 10,000 mark. Thankfully to the Ma Earth Foundation, they did a grant funding, a quadratic funding round last round, and so that was like enough funding for us to actually set up our operation, and that'll sustain us for a little bit. But the next step will be 100,000, right? And so as we're bringing more community members in, we're building up our refi muscles, and we're able to metabolize more of this financial liquidity into actual on the ground regenerative effort. Because I think one of the things with the network state kind of mentality or approach is that you can just drop in millions of dollars into a place and then snap your fingers and it magically happens. And it's actually the other way around, where it's not so much the money isn't the limitation, it is how much trust we have within our community to be able to move that kind of resources. Because the worst thing to happen is you get too much money and then everybody starts fighting over money, versus we're actually focused on supporting each other, and then the money is able to help scale that. And so, yeah, just kind of going from the bottom up as opposed to the top down and out, bottom up and out. So we're just mostly focused on the west side of the island right now, but Sicily is a triangle, and so we've got partners in Ragusa, down in the southeast, and up in Catania in the northeast. And so we're basically connecting the three dots. And then I was in Calabria recently, which is just over the strait, helping set up Refi Calabria with friend Maria Falbo. And so it was really great to just be able to like expand the practice and yeah, cross the bioregions, so to speak. Because Sicily is really interesting. Mount Etna is the largest volcano in Europe, but what it actually is sitting on between the African and European plates. So the west side of Sicily is actually on the African side. So the Mediterranean Ocean is something that's like geological time, it's relatively new. It used to just be a basin before it got flooded. So, you know, the climate's constantly changing. You know, taking over like long-term timescales is like a shift for sure. And how do we bring that continuity into the day-to-day amongst like eons and like planetary timescales is really interesting. Okay, Jogo, I think you're the only one who's got a question, so go for it. I know we've been on the Twitter Spaces a lot, so it's nice to
Yeah, good to
it's nice
be
to have some FaceTime.
catching again. Yeah. Okay. The you know, I yesterday Borrow Lucid made a uh, presentation, about grants and all. And then in the end, we talked, and someone suggested a link of a, a platform that produce merch with NFTs, and you can put royalties, set smart contracts, and for a global brand, for yeah, like we selling t-shirts in US, for example, and or Europe, and that can be a good way to to create this kind of thing you talk about, marketing and making it in a regenerative way, in a resilient, not just putting the markets, like having uh, the wealth well distributed, and other possibilities also of like I want to sell baby clothes with QR codes to their nests and to their systems.
Well, it highlights the point that we have to rebuild the economy from the ground up. So everything that we think what the economy is in our current system is in some way contributing to like the degeneration of the planet and of our communities in some way, shape, or form. And so we have to like invert the whole economy to be producing things locally in a way that through the production, it actually regenerates the land. And so, you know, that's a lot to really take in. But for example, like and it's not rocket science either. A lot of it is just going back to more traditional ways, but using like future technology. So for example, like sheep herding, harvesting the wool, turning that into fabrics, also home insulation. But the people who used to herd sheep aren't really like, there's very few left. And so we got to train a new generation. And then, for example, using the straw from the wheat to make buildings and having to like train up people in that way. And yeah, growing hemp and needing specialized machines to process that. And so there's, yeah, just a lot. I think there's the ecosystem restoration, and then there's the regenerative enterprise. And so these NFT marketplaces and other things open up more revenue, like more avenues for revenue, so to speak. And so there's a lot of cool experiments happening right now with people like Peaches, NFT Peaches. Jogo, what was your yeah, how, because I know you did the NFT seeds as a fundraiser. What were your feedbacks, or what was your kind of, what are you thinking next to do in the next iteration?
Yeah. I sent the link in the chat of this platform. Take a look. Like maybe selling T-shirts of people making wool and all that would be a good start before getting to the real this back cultural return of, we gotta start somewhere, and I think we're in that soon the meta but like the seeds, serve as a recognition, that is generating reputation, and then transform that to reputation tokens is a good possibility. It's just that the setup is not totally ready. But it's a conversation that it's going to start later this year. A topic in agroforestry for recognition tokens, how to distribute. Presents the banana split that is that we are preparing. This concept using the banana as a symbol, but recognizing everybody that has had contact with that genetics and with the germ plants, basically. And so they would receive tokens every time that a banana is sold somewhere along the chain.
And are you doing any collaboration with Juicebox?
Yeah, that would be a good thing. Yeah, right now, it's just having the concept better framed, and the conversation going to then start, analyzing what is out there. In the meantime, Polygon will be, with Give It, they will be putting that accelerator grants to create tokens for projects and basically bonding curves, right? And so it's happening, and I find it interesting to be able to retroactive reward the seed stewards.
I'm raising
Take it
my
away,
hand.
Jan.
I'm raising my hand too.
High five.
You had a couple of thoughts or questions for you. Like Jogo and you and a lot of other people are doing all this amazing work on the ground and connecting the local community. You're basically knocking on doors, right? And to scale that, I think we talked about it before. Somebody mentioned it. It's almost like a welcome package is needed that explains this in simple terms to people. So that's, or even to get it into local news, like, look, this is working, and get it in front of more people. It's just a marketing exercise.
Yeah.
Do you see? I mean, how much of am I right, of the groundwork are you doing, of
Well,
knocking on doors versus?
There's already a lot of groundwork happening by people in the permaculture community, and also because of the fires are now like a red alert, and the drought is a red alert. More and more people are demanding answers from politicians, or kind of like self-organizing. So it's less about knocking on doors, and it's more about just building a bigger lifeboat, because people are jumping ship and they don't really know what to do, and there's not really infrastructure in place, because people go to the local politicians demanding answers or demanding change, and nothing changes. And so people are looking for alternative solutions. It's just it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to take in, and it takes time to do the education and the green pilling. But I think the intention is there. People are looking for answers. People want to find some regenerative solutions. So, for example, I'll go back to the river slide, and at the top of the mountain is a occupation. So there's a community building that the city owns that's been kind of abandoned, and then there's a national organization that deals with like organizing communities against fires. So I mean, it's kind of like a spinoff of Extinction Rebellion or whatever. So there's been a group of like of young people who've occupied this like building, which was a hotel and restaurant. It was a really nice building, but it was just abandoned. And that's like what happens all over the place. Is you have all this like public good infrastructure, tragedy of the commons. And so this group has came in, they've occupied it for the last couple weeks, and they're holding like public assemblies for people to talk about the fire situation and how to manage. But it's young people, and they don't really have the infrastructure to do all of the like human management, the cultural scaffolding, if you will. And so that by them occupying the top of the mountain, and I'm going and participating in their events, I'm able to see, okay, connecting the dots. So people are already like pushing the things forward, and it's almost like, how do we get in? Like, how do we, what is it called? Where you are drifting. Yeah, drifting like behind, like we don't have to try and swim upstream. How do we float downstream with people who are already like going on the move? So yeah, learning how to be more elegant, it's always like a issue of elegance, maneuvering, and
That's it's interesting to me because I've tried also for quite a while to get into youth groups or meet with Fridays for Future people. But
I've got good news for you, Yen. I've got good news for you. There is now a Refi Red Hook chapter based in New York. So a friend, Eve, who was at the Refi Sicilia week last year, she's now heading that up in New York. So yeah, she would be a great connect next time you're in the city.
I'm gonna ask you for that contact. That'd be awesome.
But yeah, I know it is difficult, and I think in the U.S. because the U.S. I think is probably the hardest place to do regenerative effort, because it's like the heart of empire. Everybody's so comfortable. Walmarts and Costco's everywhere. Going to the margins where people are like in dire need is, that's where we can do the regenerative action. And then slowly and that's the other thing here is I'm not doing anything in Palermo. Palermo is the big city. We're working on the outskirts so that we can then kind of surround the city and then integrate, infiltrate once we have the city surrounded. But this is, I mean, all the organizations, all the NGOs, all of the events, the cultural events are happening in Palermo City. Meanwhile, the actual land that needs to get regenerated is the negative space, all of the space outside that's been sucked dry, because all the people have left, either gone to the city or gone abroad or whatever. So the only people left in the countryside is like a skeleton crew of like old timers, kind of like the random dropout, like Romanians, African day laborers. It's a very weird mix. Meanwhile, the summer here, it's like packed full of tourists, and which, how do we make tourism a regenerative industry as well? So there's a lot of work to do there. And yeah, just having like Refi as a cultural bridge too, because what I think we were talking recently with the Cleanify, they're trying to create their like trash pickup app so that if you're traveling, you can like drop into a local trash pickup. And I think, you know, with Meetup, and Eventbrite, or like all of these other, I mean, I feel like the 2010s was like the golden age of like meetups, and that's, you know, post COVID, we're trying to search for where is the new like community to touch into, and because I feel like the Web2, like peer-to-peer Web2 from like Uber and Airbnb, like that just turned out to be such a joke in terms of like extractive business. And yeah, people are looking for regenerative community and looking to like make a positive impact. And so, yeah, I think that's probably the best thing going for us right now. But yeah, and I don't know how much tourism you get up in the burbs, or is it more that people are going to to the destinations? Maybe we can get them on some regenerative travel packages.
Yeah, I've actually, when Joe Brewer went to the Berkshires to activate the Bioregional Center there, I went. It's about 2 hours away, and there's a lot more community there and groups that are worth connecting with. Where I live, it's a couple of green people, but yeah, it's not like I feel
How
like
close are you? Magenta is in the Boston area. I think, yeah, because you're right. There's so much like happening on the other side of the fence, and how to bring it over, or at least like go to the border, the border wall,
yeah, no,
like
it's just
the beaver border.
this is a bubble where I am an hour north of New York City. It's totally green, and it's just all the rich people, right? You don't see any problems necessarily as you do in other landscapes. So you have to go where it's
What about doing some, because I feel like that is the land of like galas and fundraising dinners and like doing other things where people want to like feel good for giving. Um, but yeah, I think it's a very difficult for people who are already very comfortable. It's hard to get them to pay attention to these like climate and like systemic issues.
yeah. But you're right. Maybe, luckily one day I'll connect to money. That would be fantastic. But the bottom line here, which is a great conversation here, by the way. But the bottom line for me is while there's so many people are experimenting, I love the invigoration of the refi scene and how grant systems now better really connect and show we can fund something together. There are all these people that are feeling it, and they want alternatives, and we have to be ready to catch them, right? To channel them to the list of apps that you've made, and say, look, this is, and then wait for better UX and wallets to then really provide access to the infrastructure.
Yeah, Jogo, you had your hand up.
Yeah, makes me think. Good points. Like, if we think of incentives, what incentives would you give for, like to what? What you give to what action? So, like, the fire is a problem. Burn. Even the kids are from the occupation are talking about it. You know, what if we incentivize harvesting plants plants seeds from plants that are fire resistant, known for its uh, use as a fire resistance, like agaves, like cactaceas, and
Yeah,
there are others, like even the beans and these plants. So we could incentivize, reward them for collecting these seeds, and they will automatically do that once a year during the moment of these seeds, and next year do again, and they will go back there with more seeds.
yeah.
If they are, oh, I have to plant this, and And this way we increase these plants, this type of species, because the placenta, we need to produce a lot of them. It's a lot of it's the biomass, it's the humidity, it's these plants. Like we incentivizing many seed banks, decentralized seed banks would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Because in reality, the people here, it's not so much lack of money. We, okay, for example, there's a big olive harvest and there's a big wine harvest, and there's infrastructure in place. There's like the processing facilities that people take their grapes and take their olives to, and it creates so much biomass, but then the biomass just sits there. And then it becomes a challenge of, okay, well, we could take that biomass back to the farm and then turn it into soil, but we need to like do a lot of like communication on getting a truck to transport it. And so a lot of it is just logistical efforts. And then for the seeds, exactly, like who has what seeds, who's got nursery space, like when is the time to go together as a group, or so a lot of it is not so much the money, it's more of the coordination around the resources that we already have. And just a little bit of money goes a long way, if it's to, invest in a machine or to pay for like to rent equipment, or yeah, exactly, to reward people for their efforts. So this Saturday we have our next mutual aid event where we'll be seeding acacias, and then we'll be planting those later in the year, because our limitation is the rains come in the winter, like November, December, and then it goes through the spring. But last year we had like very, very little rain. And so it's becoming more unpredictable. And so we're having like critically need like irrigation for the first few years for these syntropic agroforestry sites. And yeah, just getting and then yeah, just getting like mapping design services for putting in these systems. And it's all very fundamental stuff, like investing in education and training and equipment, and like that goes a very, very, very long way into setting up like for long-term success. So with a little bit of funding for each bioregion, I think that's what's like kind of the good news, is that if we were able to get like $100,000 for every bioregion as they're developing their like bioregional culture and governance, and then they're able to steward those funds into the projects that need it, and it kind of self-assembles itself. I think we're getting close to that number, where we're starting to see the ROI on the refi, and just like little things. It's hard to say, well, a community greenhouse, like like no bank's going to give you money for that. But with a few thousand dollars worth is enough to like kickstart a like a regional node. And so yeah, just trying to figure out like business plans for some of these like community projects. And so now we've got like the next greenhouse project is already ready to go, and we don't even need that much money because the there's already an abandoned greenhouse on the site, and the land owner was like, yeah, you can do it like rent free for like 3 years, just take care of it. So how do we take these personal relationships where and alchemize them? I think that's probably the biggest thing, is the alchemy of like social acupuncture, where we have so much resources available, it's just like frozen, it's stuck, it's stiff, and then moving it around and putting it where it needs to go. And I think that's like yeah, the art of regeneration, the art and science of regeneration. But I think we're coming up on the hour. I don't know if we want to wrap up, if anybody had any last questions. But just want to say thank you for the, yeah.
Just want to say that I would love to collaborate on rewarding this, but for the plants that are for fire resistant, and so not every plant, not every nursery, just this species, and then we start multiplying those.
Yeah. So good news is we have a permaculture group already in Sicilia. They've just this year created their fire break consortium, and I will send you that diagram, because it's things that I think work in Brazil as well. But like
We'll
the
make a
prickly pear
donation.
cactus, yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, because there's already so many amazing groups doing so much amazing work just on the ground regeneration. It's just they don't have any idea of refi, and then maybe they don't see like how it's helpful for them. But yeah, just slowly, like we're syntropic friending friend forest.
Refi Sicilia collaboration. In name of this Refi Sicilia collaboration, I'll make a donation of $50. All right.
Great.
Everybody else
yeah,
who
and
wants
then
to do that, go ahead.
we'll get on. Yeah, we'll definitely do a demonstration planting. And yeah, Jogo, thank you again for your work and for all your support, and helping to be a anchor for the agroforestry movement worldwide. And yeah, thanks for the local Dow Summer organizers. This is a really cool event series, and just happy I could share my little story from my little part of the world. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Anything else from the hosts?
Yeah,
Any housekeeping?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm actually gonna get on a call with Wasabi later today too. Yeah, so fun.
Coconut,
yeah.
Coconut Man.
But I'm gonna thank you so much for sharing the slide deck. I'm gonna put that in the document where we have all the transcription and the link to the recording, and that's gonna all go inside the calendar event itself. And then I will also share that in the Telegram. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think also at this time, Jimmy Cohen, Treegens, is interviewing Jessica Zartler, who is one of the co-authors for the MycoFi book. So if anybody wants to jump over there. But yeah, thank you again, and looking forward to carrying this conversation and collaboration forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Antonio.